Action.
We rolling?
Yeah.
Oh.
What a week, what a week, what a week.
Oh yeah. What's been in your face?
Cardi launched on Friday with Meg Thee Stallion.
WAP. WAP, yeah.
WAP. Kamala was announced.
Kamala. Let's get it.
Let me get it right.
We're gonna put some respect on this woman's name.
On this brown woman's name.
And brown woman, yeah.
Brown skinned girl. Kamala Harris was elected.
She wasn't elected yet, baby. So
I wouldn't say she was elected to office, but she was picked as the VP for Joe Biden and the Democratic Party.
Yes. First for a woman of color, a black woman, and an Asian woman to ever be listed on that first party ticket. And also, you already said WAP though, right?
Yeah. And she was an HBCU grad. That's pretty big too.
That is pretty big. And so, I like to see our blackness, the melanin shining everywhere. And it just shows that there's greatness in the melanin. But
with greatness always comes a little hate.
You took it right out of my mouth.
Yeah,
sorry. So we got WAP, where I'll let you describe it. I mean,
well,
I don't want to be, because it's already been talked about.
Some people are saying that WAP is a feminist anthem.
So, do you not agree?
As a feminist, I do agree. I think.
As a what? You don't agree?
No.
Oh.
It's an anthem for sure.
Okay. This isn't your anthem? I kid, don't answer that. Hey, mama.
Right.
But, by the way, make sure you like, subscribe, and share Face to Face. We've just been talking and we didn't even know y'all had even joined us. So this is how we get. But make sure you like, subscribe, and share. We're on YouTube, Face to Face Multimedia, and on Facebook and Instagram as Face to Face with Damon and MK. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and then on YouTube you can also hit the notification button so that you'll know when we have a new video available.
But I mean, Cardi's gotten a lot of slack, her and Megan Thee Stallion, from conservatives who feel like they are supposed to be role models for our youth. And
I have a problem with that. I just don't see how that is a valid argument, because they never came out and said, I'm just going to be a role model to every little girl that's watching us. So I don't understand why. Well, I understand why people say that, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah.
I guess for me, and I've noticed this with a lot of different records that have come out lately. So the Tekashi 6ix9ine with the Nicki feature, the Cardi B with the Meg Thee Stallion feature. The imagery in these videos has a lot of bright colors. It's got a lot of rainbows and things like that, which could be attractive for the youth.
I mean, but it's not being a role model. A rainbow doesn't mean a role model. But I think, just taking it back, walking it back to the whole Kamala and her being the first woman of color to be on a major party ticket. That shows, and when we watched her last week give her speech when she was first elected, and she did what a vice president was supposed to do. She criticized the current administration, but the backlash that she got from it, it went outside of what white society or men think that black women should be like. So she was classified as angry, nasty, overly ambitious, so those sort of things. And I think it even goes back to the Cardi and Meg Thee Stallion. Like,
the song is nasty.
And
I think that Cardi and Megan would agree. That's the shock value in it, That's the entertainment in it. It's nasty. But as women, we have many facets. So sometimes we're going to be a lady. Sometimes we're going to be nasty. And to be honest, Cardi B is a married woman with a child. So how do we think little culture got here?
I mean, I guess it's the thing of that's supposed to be in your bedroom. Like you're not. I guess that's what the argument is. Not saying that I subscribe to the argument, but that's not what culture is. You know.
And my argument is this has been going on in hip hop since the beginning. Men get to talk about whatever they want, whenever they want. And women who do the same are criticized for being too vulgar, too nasty. They need to keep it in the house behind closed doors. It's this respectability politics that I just don't necessarily get with, because at the end of the day, we have people who think if you talk a certain way, if you act a certain way, if you do things a certain way, society's going to respect us, especially as people of color. But we have duplicity. We're different. We've got different sides to us. Sometimes I do want to be a professional and come off polished. And sometimes I want to be a little ratchet with my friends.
And that's totally acceptable. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I think that the view of women, black women specifically in society, is you are behind closed doors in some sort of relational type situation where you are almost like the mammy, like where you're rearing kids and your role is to be the role model to kids. And so to even put the idea of that you can be sexually free or, you know, or express your sexuality in a way that a man typically has done in the past, then you're not fitting those roles. And the same with Kamala, they're saying that she's nasty, aggressive, overly ambitious, and that's not typically what society has seen a black woman do. That's not how they have.
I wouldn't say that's not what society typically hasn't seen a black woman do. They love to call black women who are opinionated, who have ideas, who speak their mind, aggressive.
Nasty,
I mean, have
rude.
you seen? Yeah, have you seen Michelle's documentary where she talks about it?
Mm-hmm.
She got so much backlash when she first came out on the scene in her husband's campaign for being too aggressive and being too opinionated. And slowly but surely she had to pull some of that back in order to fit into what society felt a first lady should be like and should talk about, and how stay in her place, basically.
Basically, but I get that, and you know you hear them saying Kamala broke the glass ceiling with her heels. Why does she have to be in heels? Why can't she be in combat boots? Like why does she have to be in this feminized role, and as if femininity is a bad thing? Like and when femininity is put on display in a way that culture or society don't normally see it, then why does it have to be a bad thing?
I mean, I don't know why it has to be a bad thing, Damon. But what I do think... No, I'm not patronizing you. I really don't know. Because that's so far from my wheelhouse. As someone who had several internships right out of high school, who went and worked in corporate America in New York on Wall Street, like, I don't see what's wrong with handling your business. And I know you've been hitting on Kamala. Oh, we're going to get in trouble. But I know you've been hitting on Kamala, but in that same respect, Cardi B has said this prior to WAP coming out and even when WAP came out. As a businesswoman, she makes records that are going to sell. And there are women who are in the genre of conscious rap. And she said, you know what? You don't stream. You don't want
nobody want to hear. That's what she said.
She said, so as somebody who's hustling, trying to, be an independent woman, she's making records that sell. She even said, what? Be careful. She came out with that, and y'all didn't want to listen. Y'all weren't streaming like y'all are for a while.
That was a really good song, though.
I mean, hey, be careful.
No, you so silly. No, but I mean, it really was a good song, and I think lyrically, probably one of her better songs, especially compared to the lyrics and WAP. But I mean, if you go back to our younger days, you got Kaya, My Neck, My Back.
You got Trina.
Trina. You got Lil' Kim. Like, you got
Foxy Brown.
So you have all of this. And I think I read somewhere, and they said it wasn't about what. I think I read a comment on the blog, and it was like, it's not about what she said, it's about the timing. So when is it the right time to be who you are? I mean,
I think people need to kind of loosen up their tighty whities because we've had a rough summer.
We have had a rough summer.
We've been in quarantine. And I think WAP was a shining light for a lot of people who felt like they weren't getting their summer, what is it, hot girl summer on?
last summer was hot girl summer. This summer is WAP. But I also, and I'll play devil's advocate here, I also think that a lot of people got upset is because this is what they really talk about, and they kind of like exposed, and they felt guilty. They felt like, oh, this is what I do. This is my nasty business, like being put out there.
Cardi said she not putting y'all business out there. All she said was she don't cook, she don't clean, but she'll tell you how she got that ring. So that don't have to do. You can take the lesson, or you don't have to. It's your choice to consume. And I also found it interesting that she posted something on her Instagram shortly following the release of WAP, where she talked about hygiene. And in her signature Cardi way, she said it with, flair. It had some kind of comical aspects to it with the bacon, egg, and cheese. But
I didn't catch that one.
Roll back the tapes later. But essentially, she was trying to bring it to a level where anybody can understand it. Like, you need to have good hygiene.
Bacon, egg, and cheese.
She said sometimes y'all eat, you got your bacon, egg, and cheese in your mouth, and then y'all...
Oh, wow.
But it's important. She opened up the conversation, made people feel comfortable about talking about hygiene, especially for women. And a lot of times, we as women are not, as you said, we're told we need to keep it behind closed doors, to the point where women are not handling their hygiene appropriately. They don't know how. They may not feel comfortable going to their mothers or their aunties or whomever to talk about this. They don't know how to maybe, schedule an appointment depending on what age range they're in. So her making this an open conversation actually, in a lot of ways, to me, was very much about feminism. Like, we are women. We do have feminine parts. They do have things that they do. And she brought light to it. And then,
Yeah, I get that. And I think on the other side of the scale, I know you going WAP, but I'm going Kamala. On the other side of the scale, what she did showed that I have a voice. It showed that femininity. I have a voice. What I have to say matter. My ideas matter. And my history, my track record, my career, it all matter. I worked to do this. I worked and I got my way here. And I'm a woman. I'm a woman of color. And now that I'm doing all of this, now the conservatives and the people are saying what I did and who I am is not conducive or can be seen of their society. And the same goes for Cardi and Megan. I mean, while they made that statement, it was a statement of who I am, as a woman, not saying that the lyrics, they do that because I don't know their life, but I don't know what they do and I don't know what kind of, I don't know all of that. But what I have to say matters. And when I say it, I can say it. And nobody should give me the flack for it when men have been doing this.
And you know what I also like when we're talking about Kamala, I think it's very interesting. Some people felt like it was premature for her to even run for president.
Why? Because she's a woman?
Well, I mean, she's like been in Senate for...
Well, she's a junior senator. So,
yeah. So people feel like she's a junior senator. Like, what does she have to stand on in a lot of ways? A lot of people kept saying, and even with, Cory Booker, they had a lot to prove. So I think it was excellent that she listened to her own internal voice and did what she thought was the right thing to do. And truthfully, this is just my opinion. I think by running for president, she solidified her seat for that VP nomination.
Yeah, because now she not only bought her track record from California, and being Attorney General. Now she shows that I am ambitious, and I'm gonna get what I want to get, and I'm gonna it's helped her, and I agree with you by stepping out on it took courage to do that. It took courage to do all of that, and I applaud her for it. I'm really proud that she could.
Yeah, and if you look at her career, she's been very ambitious throughout. So I mean, it's been one of those things where you can tell she's someone who really goes for what she wants, and I can respect her for that. And I love how much she is embracing who she is. Yes, she is a black woman, but she's also someone who comes from Indian heritage as well.
Yes.
And who is she to deny who she is on both sides? And I think we've heard a lot of fodder on the internet about who she is.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, and we're going to jump into this with Black is King. When you talk about brown skinned girl, you saw how Beyonce brought to the table not only black women, but she also brought in brown women when we're talking about our Indian sisters out there. Because colorism, it doesn't exclude.
Exactly, and we have colorism within our race, and I think I was going through the Black is King video before you got here, and I like how she purposely plays the darker skinned women throughout, and I think that is good to highlight. I mean, that's what brown skin girls is about. When they the debutante, they were always, they had to pass the brown paper bag test, and I like that she brought dark skin and darker skin into the mix. But like you said, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Okay,
so let's jump in.
We have a lot to talk about today.
Black is King.
Yes.
Find your way back.
Find your way back. Once again, Beyonce did it again. I'm a very huge fan of Lemonade, and I think the best way to... I haven't seen anyone top that virtual album.
Visual?
Visual album.
She'll be doing virtual next, trust me.
Virtual reality.
Have
the virtual reality.
That'll be there. Look at you, speaking it into existence. That'll be next.
Yeah, but I have yet to see anyone top that, any male with a response. Jay-Z with the 4-4-4-4. I mean, he came out and it confirmed some of the stuff that we speculated Lemonade was about. But I think she topped herself in this, and I think Black is King was excellently and it was masterfully crafted, in my opinion.
And you know what I think is so phenomenal? When I listened to The Gift when The Lion King originally came out,
I didn't like it.
I I didn't hate it.
but it wasn't. I played it I played it a few times, but
Right, because I wanted to get ready for like going to go see the film. But I think the visual with Black is King really tied everything together in such an eloquent way.
it's like the visual album was so good that I walk around like singing the songs now, like
Right.
and I've heard some of the same songs from The Gift, but they didn't catch like that. I mean, already did, and that was always my jam. So, but but I find myself singing it, and I think she has a very good way of inviting you into her head and her mind and her creative, and she paints beautiful pictures and things about culture, which we find in Black is King. You know, we find a lot of elements and the entire story of a young boy navigating this divine journey of life to find his identity. And I think to see that and to see someone do it in a way that people pay attention, it is broadcast to multiple households and multiple.
They said Disney Plus got 22 million more subscribers
just to watch
after Black is King launched, and I'll admit I was one of them. They might lose my subscription now that I've seen Black is King.
I think they're gonna lose 22 million.
But she did sign a contract, so there will be more to come.
But
we might come back. We might come back.
I mean, that's how people were doing Tidal. She was dropping the album only on Tidal.
I think that phase is over.
I think.
But to be honest with you, and I've read this about Tidal, they pay the artist directly. So we're talking about Cardi being a businesswoman, Beyonce is a businesswoman.
Run me my money.
Run her money. Okay?
I mean, I'm not knocking it. However you need to do what you do. But back to Black is King and the story of a black man finding his way back. What did you? I hate to like throw a question at you like in the beginning of the conversation, but what did you think like when you saw it?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. When I initially saw it, I was highly confused.
I think we all were.
And not in a bad way, but in a thought-provoking way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of people say if you aren't the type of person who goes to a museum and you don't absorb art in that way, it could be difficult to understand.
Yeah.
There were so many sensories going on and watching that. It's something you have to watch multiple times and digest.
Mm-hmm.
So initially when I saw it, you understand it's the backstory of the Lion King and Simba and a young man coming into his own, coming into manhood, and ultimately finding within himself that he is the king. Mm-hmm. It was
a king.
Well, a king. In his case, the king of his jungle. But
jungle. Why gotta be a jungle?
Well, that's what I don't know. Okay, so that was his birthright.
Yeah.
And that's something she says initially in the beginning of Black is King. That, you are king, this is your birthright. And I think sometimes we don't always know what our purpose is when we come.
Yeah, and I think the problem is we identify we define ourselves by what we do, and then sometimes a lot of times what we do can be taken away from us. Like I define myself as a doctor, I find myself as this, and then if that is taken away from you, then you are left with a crisis of identity. And I think that's the era of thinking. Like we have a purpose, we exist for a reason, but who we are is who we are. That's more intrinsic. That's a factor that goes beyond what we do. It's like purpose is a precursor to identity.
And and she does sprinkle that question in throughout the film. who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? It's almost like she's bringing the audience in and asking you, yourself, who are you? And especially as black people, to see this journey, and it starts off with the water, which a lot of people are saying is symbolism of life, fertility. The movement of water is about change and transition. For the black diaspora in America, we were brought here through water to America. And in some parts of the film, she talks about how we've lost our voices, our tongues, how we spoke. And it's about coming back as black people
To who we
are.
who we divinely are. And you're right with the diasporic viewpoint of how we've come here and we've become colonized, like, and it's stripped of who we were intended to be. And so now we find ourselves identifying ourselves by norms that were never really ours. And that's what this is, black. That's what I got from Black is King, is that it was just as he went throughout the video, the footage, he struggled to identify himself. But I like what she says in the beginning. She said, "Your history is your future." And so that lets us know that we are defined by where we've come from. And our purpose, especially of the black man in African society, was to his community. That's where you define your identity and your purpose, through your community and caring for others. And I think that's what she was painting there. But when we get here, you don't mean anything unless you have money. You have
that move forever.
Right, that whole dream segment that he had, where I mean, I interpret it as a
the
dream.
House, the clothes, the cars, the jewelry, everything. And I think when we talk about community, there was a part in the film where you have a man say a lot of what he learned was from women, and women reassembled him.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, because he says a man can teach me. I think he said something like a man could teach him something, but most of who he is because of a woman, like the woman background in society. Because he said he learned a lot from women, and when I heard him say that a lot, I think back to my upbringing as a black boy. I learned things from my dad, but I think the things that stick with me and how I should navigate in life, I did learn from my mom. Like I just watching my mom and my grandma, like it was almost like the women kind of taught those not morals, but you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, and I think some of that imagery is also brought out in that scene where, do you remember where they had those huge gourds on their heads?
Oh yes.
So what does a gourd hold? Water. Life, how we live, all the struggles, the trauma, everything is in the life of the water, basically. And as you see these women carrying that some could see a burden, some could see it as creativity. They had these exaggerated gourds on their heads about how women have carried a lot. But then yet she contrasted with such beautiful imagery and beautiful flowing gowns and different looks, and even she had on her signature red onesie. I mean, it's the sensuality of it. But women have carried everything in life, and they've done it so gracefully and eloquently. I think just as much as this was a dedication to her son Sir, it does speak to the duality of feminine and masculine. And just as much as she had imagery of the young boy going through his journey in life, she always contrasted with an image. There was one point where there was a young lady who was playing with the young Simba.
Yeah, and I think the duality also goes with light and darkness, or good and evil, because
The chess pieces.
the chess pieces, and then you also had you had the blue character who was the subconscious. It represented his his subconscious. I wouldn't say little, but his subconscious, and but then you had him where he lost himself by trying to fit into the scene where the don't jealous me. That scene showed how we try to imitate people in society, and when we begin to move away from who we are and who we know we are, then we become self-absorbed. We become self-fulfilled, and when we do that, we begin to separate ourselves from our natural born identity of being with community, caring for others and taking care of others, because it's all about myself. And then you jump into when his friend turns into Scar, who is the representation of all of what I said that we try to imitate. Then you feel like I'm duped, because I've gotten so far gone that I don't even know. And she says it here. I don't even know. I don't even know if I even exist anymore. And so
But
you
you
lost
gotta
it.
find your way back.
You got to find your way back, and so that's what we're talking about. We want to talk about how to find your way back. How can people find your way back?
One of the biggest things that people can do is learn about their history.
Yeah, yeah, and so and like even in Black is King, how it opened up, it opened up with the image of what I would say was Moses and Queen Bethsaida, his adoptive mother who rescued him out of the water. Even if you know the story of Moses, you see how he was, even though he was rescued because his mom had to, place him in the water, but he was still, his purpose and identity was still wrapped in his culture, that he was reared by his biological mother, because she still taught him the way of the Hebrews, and so I think we have to, like you said, learn our culture and our history and where we come from.
Because the ancestors were all throughout this visual album. Our ancestors, who we came from, that lineage creates the circle. We never are alone, and we never completely are lost, because there's always a continuation. Your parents are a continuation of their parents. A lot of times, I've even seen Tina speak on this. When you look at your grandchildren, you see
yourself, and that's why she said your history is your future. And as we watch him go through this, once, and I think when you get to the point where you don't know you exist, or you've gotten to the point where you've lost yourself,
or you let society tell you who you are, who you should be.
and that's when I think deep within all of us, we know, we have a sense of who we are. We know we are taught who we are from a very young age. Your heritage, and you see it, you experience it, you're immersed in it. And I think you have to go back to where you began to begin to build that, to find your way back, that whole aspect of getting my identity, because we are divinely kings, and we do have that divine calling on our lives. We were created in the image of a king. The Bible says we were created in his image. So we all share that same sense of purpose, we of identity in Christ. We all were created in his image, and then we all have spiritually the same purpose, to go out into the world and make disciples. But we all have temporary assignments too. And I think that's where we get the purpose and identity.
Our culture helps us shape our identity. What Black is King brings to light is we don't necessarily, as Black people, always know like our culture.
And why do you?
Because we've lost, like it said, we lost our language. We've lost, some of our heritage. And as much as you've spoken about biblical imagery in the film, it has been criticized because some people believe, and she even had a book that said something like Gods of Africa. Let me not misquote, but there was a book she was holding up in the film where it was talking about,
What film?
Black is King.
There was a book?
Yeah, she holds it up in one of the scenes.
I never saw
And
a
it's
book
talking
of it.
about like the gods of Africa or something. But I mean,
I now I know what you're talking about. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. I was like, wait, what? Okay. I think that was a imagery for something as referring to like ancient texts, like the Bible or whatever text you. And I think she was saying that these texts, they have meaning and outside of it, and they're not just stories. And so that's why I think it was the purpose of, pay attention to your culture, whatever they're telling you to read. Maybe it is if it's the Bible, read the Bible. It's not just a book of stories. And I think she's saying that you can find yourself in these texts.
what text?
So you trying to take me somewhere that I said I wasn't gonna go.
Well, you asked me about culture and identity.
I don't think we need to have that conversation.
We'll just edit it on out.
on the camera. Yeah, and we're all like, we all are connected, but we all serve a purpose, and we all have individual purposes, and so your purpose, it's not my purpose, but me doing my purpose and you doing your purpose is somehow connected in the grand scheme of things, and I like that she did tie that imagery in there as well.
Yeah, and it also goes with the whole circle theme as well, because the circle doesn't break. It's ever flowing, or it's continual. There you go.
Infinite. Yeah.
Infinite. So it's all about being connected and being one.
Yeah, and that's all about finding your way back. And you have to, because when you lose your identity and lose yourself, you've disconnected from everything. You are no longer a member of the community, your community, or a productive member of your community. I don't want to say you're not a member of your community, but you have to get that connection back. And then I think it even goes a little bit further. You have to reconnect with your spirit when you to find your way back. Because now you've taken on spiritual aspects of things that you've assimilated or tried to imitate, and that don't jealous me scene. I like the way that you saw it, and I also saw that the use of the serpent, in that, and how that snake and several parts of the video, it bounced from person to person.
Because we are not, none of us are exempt.
Right. And I think that was even painted in the I think it was the Move Forever. So you got a phone where it gives you a night light.
It gives you my bedtime.
You need a lullaby to go to bed.
No, I'm trying to connect my spirit. You gotta get right. You gotta drink your water. You gotta have sleep your 8 hours. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my spirit man together.
So you gonna drop dead and drop sleep right now? I didn't know what that was over there. But I forgot where I was going. But I think it was the Move Forever, where I think right after when Jay-Z came in, and it kind of reminded, and I think Jay-Z even goes to the point of, he's saying that, you're not all the way good and you're not all the way bad, and it's not always a battle, but it's a choice. And so, sometimes you have to make the choice to own who you are.
You're good and you're bad.
You're good and you're bad, because we all have it. We all have the good, we all have the bad. But it's making the best choice that you can make to choose who you are, and not let someone else define who you are. We being colonized and taken from our heritage and our culture, we define ourselves by what the white man say we're supposed to be, what white America, a white society says we're supposed to be,
And
and
they say you shouldn't be talking about your WAP. You shouldn't be aggressive as a woman running for office.
exactly. So you got WAP, you got being ambitious to the point where you're second in command, and when you are placed in a box and then you break outside of that box, it makes everybody who placed you in that box uncomfortable because now you are doing something that they were afraid that you could do. They were afraid. They are afraid that a black woman, a woman of color, a woman of Asian descent, can be second in command. When we were brought here, we were subservient. You know, we were.
Well, we weren't subservient, but we were brought here to be subservient.
Well, yeah. But you see now, and it makes people uncomfortable when you finally speak out and say who you are. When you've tried to be who they have told you you are. And I think and I think back to last episode when I think you made a moment when you said, "Who told you that you were less than? Who told us that we had to be in this box?"
I think sometimes we tell ourselves, and I think, and you saying that, it sparked back to me for brown skinned girls, because right before in that scene, I think there's a young lady walking and Beyonce's talking about how we are beautiful, we've always been beautiful, and there's a point, I think either her or another gentleman in the scene prior to that talk about how people will call you anything. They'll call you short, they'll call you dumb, they'll call you whatever, and we absorb that so easily into our spirit, man, and allow what the world tells us who we are to define us.
And when the world defines us, the world is defining us for a reason. Whenever the world goes against who we divinely are, whenever the world defines us against who we divinely are, it creates things within us: fear, a crisis of conscious, of identity, and it creates all these things. And when we are fearful, when we are afraid to break those norms, we hold ourselves back. We not only hold ourselves back, but we forget who we are.
And so that brings back to me that verse in the Bible where it says we're so fearfully and wonderfully made, and oftentimes we forget that.
The reason I smiled when you said that is I did a study earlier this week on and it was all about identity, actually, and that was a scripture, and we reread it from another version, but I read it from the Message version, and it talks about how, you know, we were created for a purpose even before we were even here, and that purpose was already written like the pages of a book. It was so beautiful. I looked at it so differently that day, and we forget that when we go through navigate our daily lives. We forget that we were created for a purpose, but we were wonderfully made, each one of us. Man, woman, black, white, no matter what color we are, we were made
in his image.
In his image. So we all share that identity. We all
are divine.
We all are divine. We all have the capacity to be kings and queens and own our own identity. And I think when we begin to grasp that the things that we can do, and that's why when Kamala was on the stage and when she gave her first speech after being selected, I smiled so proudly because I being a black man in America is hard. So just to watch someone do that. She's not a man, but
And trust me, being a black woman in America is hard. And we oftentimes, I think, as women, black women, are always supporting and protecting our families, our black men, whomever, that you got to think there's a lot of criticism going on right now for Kamala as a candidate. Kamala as a candidate.
She gonna get it right, y'all.
Eventually. But what I will say is I've seen something on Facebook come out where they say she is a black woman. She is a light-skinned woman. She's an South Asian. She is a former prosecutor. She did arrest. So she claiming some of the things that she's done that have all culminated to bring her to who she is and who her experience is. And I think in this cancel culture, and not to harp on that, but sometimes we're so hard on everybody for every little thing. But in reality, we all have a little good, we all have a little bad, and we're all finding our way.
We're still trying to find our way back to who we are, or find who we are. I mean, there are a lot of people, especially our age, the millennial age, that are still trying to figure out
who they are,
who we are, because I can think back, in school, you had to go all the way through school, get graduate, and then you had to go to college, because if you didn't go to college, then you're not going to get a good job, and then you're not going to be successful, and all of this. And there are a lot of successful people that never stepped foot in a college, and I think it's these myths that we follow about.
We decide to define ourselves.
Right, and back to the being difficult being black in this country. You can be doing all the right things and still not see. I mean, Breonna Taylor, I'm gonna say her name until those people are arrested who killed her. She was doing everything right.
She was a first responder,
essential worker, in her own house, sleep at night, doing all the right things, not out partying. What people say are wrong is wrong. I'm not saying partying is wrong, but all the deviant things that people say. She was in her house. You got Trayvon Martin walking home from the store.
It goes back to respectability politics. I mean, it just, we could do all the right things, hold all the right aspirations, titles, goals, and things like that, and society may have already identified who they think we are.
But it's up to us to show society who we are. It's up to each one of us.
Every aspect of us.
Every aspect. The good, the not so pleasant, those things are who you are. Everything around you, everything about you is who you are. And people not gonna like every aspect of you, but you own yourself. You look yourself in the mirror every day and own who you are. And I think when we do that, we get to the point of self-actualizing and being able to do those, to step outside the box, break those barriers.
Live without fear.
Live without fear. I like that. Because we are all a part of something greater. And that's what I got from Bigger. We're all a part of something greater. But we all have to get in position. Back to episode 1.
Oh, play your position.
Get in your position and just respect one another. Live in harmony with one another and respect your differences as well as your similarities. And I think that's the key thing here.
Because ultimately we are a universal community.
Universal community. So whether, it's whopping it out,
with a little ratchet.
Or
running for
office. Whatever it is, you own it. So, I mean.
With that being said, we ask that you own who you are. And thank you. Every time.
No pageant show. But I think that was a good conversation today.
I think so too. I mean, I think I'm gonna do some introspection for sure after this.
I didn't seem convinced when I said it. You said, I think so too. Were you bored?
My bedtime.
Oh, I forgot you do have that lullaby going up over there. But yeah, I think this was a much needed conversation. I mean,
It is. No, seriously, in all seriousness. I think sometimes we forget who we are, and for every person, we can define that differently. But don't forget whose you are.
Oh, I like that. Don't forget whose you are. Well, it's been a great conversation with you all today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. YouTube and Facebook, and we are now on Instagram.
Instagram.
We forgot to mention that part.
No, you forgot.
Well, she's the Instagram queen, so so she's walking me through the whole Instagram thing, but we're getting there. But we are also on Instagram, so please go and like us on Instagram. And
follow us.
It's like and follow. No,
just they can like a picture, but they can follow us.
See, she get me. But yeah, go on Instagram and do your thing there. Face to face multimedia on Instagram. You will see both of our wonderful faces there. We hope to see you a little bit more on Instagram pretty soon with some what's in your face. So we'll surprise you all. So
with the IGTV.
IGTV. Yeah. So we're gonna do some IGTV for you guys. We'll try to do some Facebook lives, but you're probably gonna catch us on Instagram pretty soon. So just like it, and we're gonna be out. What do you think?
I think that's it. It's a wrap, folks.
You gonna sing us out?
Fake? No, I'm kidding.
No, you don't want that. Well, it's been a pleasure, you guys. We will see you all next time. Thank you for joining us on Face to Face. Good night.
Good night.
Face to face.